Hi, this is Taryn Grome, editor of Pharma Voice. We met with numerous inspirational thought leaders at this year's DIA annual conference as part of our Editors Take video series. I hope you enjoyed this discussion.
In this episode, we spend some time with Bonnie A. Brescia, founding principal, BBK Worldwide, and Bonnie brings along with her Christel Aprigliano, CEO, the Diabetes Collective. Let's start with Bonnie. What was it like in the industry before patient centricity became commonplace?
I was thinking about maybe 20 years ago when the term patient wasn't even allowed in our discussion. It was the time of subject accrual. And just moving it to the idea of patient recruitment was a big step. So now, 20 years later, when everyone, as you say, is talking about patient centricity, I couldn't be happier with that because we're finally having our sort of Copernican moment, because we're focusing as the patient at the center of the universe and not the science or the compound around which the patient revolves.
How did the basic principle of patient centricity play a role in patient recruitment and engagement?
The idea that there were human beings who were now partnering with the scientists and the physicians to explore improvements in the way drugs could improve health. So that really was the beginning of us saying, wait a minute, these are people who are volunteers and are making an equal commitment to the healthcare professionals in advancing the science.
Over to Christel. If today is the baseline for patient centricity, where do we go from here?
So I think that for the majority of people who have a successful clinical trial, it all boils down to communication. So I think that the future of a patient-centric clinical trial is based on a continuous feedback loop between the patients and the key personnel that runs those clinical trials. So we're looking at, I think, some different things. Patient advisory boards need to grow and patients need to speak up a little bit more, have the opportunity to speak up. I also believe the mobile health apps from a patient point of view is crucial. And we need to keep that in mind all the time, that we need to give that feedback to the clinical sites, to the principal investigators, as well as I believe that we need better interactive recruiting techniques. So ways to actually reach patients who are willing to participate in a clinical trial but have no idea what it is, and sometimes have no idea that they have one right in their backyard. So we need to get them to be able to participate.
I think one of the things you and I have talked about that strikes a chord for me is the idea that it's not about being patient-centric. Here are all the patients with this condition, all the people with type 2 diabetes. It's about the experience of each patient that is participating in clinical research and what their specific journey is. And that's another challenge for us, is to just not use the term patient and mean all people, but to look at each individual and how they're contributing and what their experience with the research trial is.
How are advocacy groups playing a role in patient centricity, and how is it incorporated into clinical trials?
For those that are patient-centric, or the individual organizations, they understand that we as patient advocacy groups can actually bring success at every step in a clinical trial process. From educating individuals who may be interested in clinical trials but not know what's involved, all the way to the very end, standing up in front of an FDA AdCom and actually giving the patient perspective to help gain approval for a drug. I've actually seen that happen. Mankind with the diabetes drug Afrezza. First in its class, this was something that was incredibly important, and when individuals walked into that AdCom meeting, the morning session was not looking very favorable. But it took the patient advocates standing up, explaining that they wanted this drug, they wanted to be able to have different options, that actually turned the tide. And the reason why Afrezza was approved was because, as many people have said, it was the patients who made the difference. We wanted to help. we want to actually have a seat at the table every step of the way, because at the end, that table is going to be empty except for the patient, and we're alone with the drugs and we're alone with the devices. So it's crucial that we are there all the time.
So what does it mean to be a patient-centric organization?
It can mean so many different things, and there's really 4 different aspects of patient centricity that I think as we try to break it into pieces, it empowers people to try to incorporate it into their organizations and their change. It's not something you can turn this switch on and be overnight. So we look at aspects of how does the research stay relevant to what's going on in the day-to-day lives of people with each of the conditions that are under study. We look at issues of logistics. These are the easiest ones to overcome, but for some reason our processes haven't looked at how do we make it more convenient for patients, eliminate wait times for reimbursement or appointments, so the logistical component, the psychosocial aspects of it, as well as the therapeutic component. So there's a way to be, just as Christel was saying, there's a way to be patient-centric along the continuum of the study, but also when you slice it differently and look at what matters to individuals. And I think that's the way to get there, is to take the small steps.
Going forward, how do we define what a patient is?
I think we're born patients. We may even be patients in utero. I think that's just part of the human condition, is that it's our health.
You can be a healthy patient.
Exactly.
So, and have absolutely nothing wrong with you. But I don't have a problem being called a patient, because that, for me, the next word is empowerment. So it allows all of us to participate in any clinical trials, because we need control subjects. We need individuals who are healthy.
Even outside the environment of a clinical research study or a clinical trial, we have a relationship with our health and well-being, which is, I think, what you're getting at. And I agree with Christel. It's okay to call me a patient. I think I like that better right now than a healthcare consumer or a well-being advocate. I mean, we're each going to come at it in a different way.
What can drive healthcare innovation in the industry today?
It started a few minutes ago when you were talking about communication and the innovation in technologies and the ways in which our communication can be not just technologically enhanced, as we're talking now through a video camera on an iPad, but whether it's wearable technologies or mobilely based diagnostic tools, there's new information that we're going to be able to capture about ourselves, and that we can partner with both our healthcare providers as well as those that are developing new treatments and new therapies for different diseases. And I'm really excited about the improvements I think we're going to make in earlier diagnosis and understanding of what point you could have an intervention in the course of a condition or a person's life that empowers them to make choices and do the things that add to a better life.
So I have type 1 diabetes. I wear an insulin pump, and I wear a continuous glucose monitor. My innovation and what I see every day happening in the diabetes sphere is incorporating data to make day-to-day decisions. And so I see that, and I can look on a graph, I can tell which way my blood sugar is going, what I need to do in order to have a very healthy day. Sometimes it's not always a healthy day, but that type of innovation, to be able to see that graph on my cell phone, to have somebody else 3,000 miles away be able to see that graph on a cell phone, to get a text every time my blood sugar drops to a dangerous level, that there's an ability to take that data, bring it up into the cloud, and share that big data for actually changing the way that algorithms are run, especially for individuals with diabetes on a pump. But in terms of clinical trials, we're already using that data. And that data needs to continue, and we need to get more advanced and being able to actually take that data, all of that raw data, and filter it down to something that's usable for the patient every day.
Some of the most exciting work that we're doing now is working with M-Health companies, wearables, ingestibles. There's a whole evolution happening there. But recruiting patients to participate in the process of validating those tools and looking at things that allow us to have longitudinal data that we never would have had and couldn't have without these technologies.
That being said, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to reach what I consider to be the disenfranchised. These are the individuals who are in underserved populations, who may not have access to the internet, may not be as educated on what options they have for clinical trials, for actually just going to see a healthcare professional and getting their options. So there needs to be a way to get to those individuals, to educate them, and to get them into clinical trials, because I think that this is the future of their health. The future of my health is based off of the clinical trials that happen every day. So we need to get to those individuals, and how do we get there? That's what technology is for.
For more information on this topic, visit our Thought Leaders website.
For more Editors Take videos from the 2015 DIA Annual Conference, visit www.pharmavoice.com. Thanks for joining us.